Hi everyone, good morning everybody. Today we have our student Mr. Vardhan, and he joined me in the year 2017 for C programming language. I remember only that. Let's see what he says, his journey from Rajahmundry to lovely Professional University Punjab. And guys, if you have any doubts related to engineering career at Lovely Professional University, how the life is there at Lovely Professional University, then you can comment below so that from those questions we can just prepare one more video for you. Okay. So my first question to Vardhan is, Vardhan, how do you know about my coaching system?
Well, good morning, sir, and hello, everybody. My name is Vardhan, and I basically studied in Chaitanya Junior College in my intermediate. And then in the summer holidays, one of my friend told me that, yes, I'm going to see programming training in EH career. Like Atish sir is going to be the tutor. And from then I got to know that, yes, there's a coaching center in like Data Pro, like where they're teaching C. And me along with my friends, we then joined the Data Pro Career Services, and then we went to the practical course of C.
Okay. So can you tell me how did this help the C programming language under our guidance, and what is your breakthrough in your first semester of engineering? Like, are you different from others? Like how we are going?
Yes, sir, definitely. Because I'm basically from an ICSC background. So right in my 8th, 9th standard, I've been dealing with C language. But at that time, my focus was on I would like to join BPC in the intermediate.
Okay.
So I didn't take C programming that seriously. But after 10th and due to certain circumstances, then I got to shift to MPC again based on different parameters. Then I got to choose MPC, and that's where it struck me after intermediate, and now I got to choose CSC. So now I have to go with programming again. And in 10th standard, even though I didn't concentrate much on C programming because, as I've told, I wanted to join BPC. So now it's a big question for me, like to go to C programming initially. So after the intermediate, when I joined in AH Careers, then I've started to focus something on C. I have been implementing many practical examples in the C programming course. Everything was in quite detail. And for every theoretical concept, we had a number of problems to solve. And we worked on various programs. Like I've been even working on a 10th class grading system program. And I've been even working on this one, which is a hotel billing management program, working with files, storing the entire data in the database, like in a file. There are various concepts which are explained very well, like the pointer concepts, the pointer to pointer, the double pointer, the triple pointer, and everything is quite good. And even the dynamic memory allotment, which is very much crucial in C programming, particularly in C programming language. And so the concepts are completely in detail. So when I've entered the university, right in the first semester, if we talk about programming paradigm, the first programming language is C language after going to the BTech. So right there, I already have experience working in C before. I have been using C Free 5 editor, and again, I worked on various programs. So that was quite easy for me to deal with that stuff in LPU so that I can directly start working on various projects. I've even developed an ebook on C that can have a complete detailed workbook, and along with some sample programs to compile also for the user. So I've developed that project too after going there to Lovely Professional University.
Very good. And what is your suggestion for future engineers? Like right now, this year, who completed their intermediate second year, and if they want to begin their journey towards their software engineering. So as a student, like what is your suggestion to them?
Well, right now I've just finished my third year. I'm entering the fourth year. I'm not that experienced, but so far as I experienced in the university, I can definitely suggest something. And that is like right after the entrance into the BTech life, if someone chooses CSC or maybe ECE or CSC or ECE basically, they would definitely come across C language. C language will be the first programming language they will be introduced to after entering BTech life. So considering a simple example, like when we are born, we initially start walking and then we start running.
Yeah. Okay.
And C programming is such a kind of programming. of course, we have advanced Java programming, we have Python programming. There are various advanced programming other than C. C is quite basic right now, but still, it's quite important for someone to start right at the basic level and then step on to the advanced level. So that would really help them shape their career in a good way, because once we get clear with the basics, that would definitely help us to learn something advanced, to upskill ourselves. So before entering, if we have a good knowledge and good understanding of C language initially, basically the programming languages, if we compare C, Java or Python or something else, the programming paradigm will be same. The logic will be same. Something we have to change and adapt is for the syntax and for various other stuff like some inbuilt libraries and all. But the programming pattern remains the same. So
I always say to my students, Vardhan, I always say to my students, programming languages may come and go, but your logic, your foundation will be one and the same.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure. Because with the advancement of technology, we are seeing a lot of programming languages coming in. But if we have a logic spine, then learning syntax is not a big deal. So it completely depends on how we get to our logic.
Yeah.
So initially, if we learn some. Yes, sir.
Yeah. One more question. That is, nowadays, few students are asking me whether I should begin with Python or I should begin with C language. Like a lot of doubts are there in students' mind. So as a trainer, I always suggest C programming only. Why? Because that is the programming language where we can practice thousands of programs, but still they are not sufficient. And I call it as a beginner's programming language. But students are getting confused whether they should start with Python first or C first. So as a student, what you recommend? Like what you suggest?
Sir, as I've said, we should initially start walking and then run running.
Okay.
So initially, it's quite important. Like, see, many people have in their mind like, okay, C is now outdated. We have many advanced programming languages. We have Python, we have Java, we have many other programming languages. They are quite advanced. Now C is outdated. No one is using in the industry. So C is not that much required right now. Everyone's mindset is right over there. But once if we think of something like if we get a good understanding of C, then the advanced programming language will be quite easy for us to learn. So it's always quite important to stick to the basics for anyone, be it a student or be it someone else who is just getting into computer programming freshly. It's always important to learn the basics first. So I would definitely suggest to go with initially C, and after getting a good understanding with the logics of C, then we can definitely adapt to another syntax like Python, or we can see basically the industry is now focused at using either Python or Java basically.
Yeah.
But when they come to higher, they definitely look at C++ skills. That doesn't mean they are using C++, but they just want to test the students' basics in C++.
Okay.
So learning C there is definitely a vital part in their career.
Very good. Very good.
So they should definitely start with C and then go to Python or Java.
Okay. And like students who are watching this video, and if you want to be part of our private group, Software Career Foundation, then you can request me on my Facebook Messenger so that I'll make you part of that particular group, and there we'll be discussing about the Software Career Foundation. Like I'm expert at the foundation level. So I won't be speaking about the higher modules and everything, because what I believe is if your foundation is strong, then you can build skyscraper on that. And if your foundation is weak, then someday you'll collapse. So right now I'm completely focusing on the foundation part of the student's career. Okay. So students who are watching, if you want to be part of our group, then just I'll give my Facebook page link in the description box. If you want to be part of our community, just put a request to me, then I'll send the invite to you and you can be part of our journey. And if you have any doubts related to Lovely Professional University, like the newcomers who wants to join, how the Lovely Professional University will be, like what is the life there, is it safe or not? Like, sorry to say you, so many parents are asking me, like, is it safe in Punjab? And I think we have a great example before me, who is studying in LPU. I think you can better guide the newcomers who wants to join in LPU. Okay, you can be a senior to them and you can guide them, like how they can join and what they need to do.
Well,
Once
as I've
they-
said earlier, as I've said earlier, I'm just entering my 4th year. I'm not an experienced individual, but definitely I can tell something out of my experience.
No, about the university life, you can at least guide
Yes,
them.
sir. University life. Yes, sir. I can definitely.
Okay. So once if the student comes to our community, our Software Career Foundation community, and if they ask any doubts regarding this, then you just guide them. Okay.
Yes,
Now,
sure.
the stage is yours. The stage is yours. You just tell us like how you have started your journey and from C language what you have learned, and if you have anything to show about the advanced courses what we have learned, and are you ready to, like you have done a lot of certification courses, isn't it? And if
Yes,
you are ready
yes.
to deliver that knowledge to our students, our student community, then let me know what you can do for our student community. Go ahead, the stage
Sir,
is
actually
yours.
now actually I have decided to speak about basically 2 main domains in engineering, like machine learning and data science.
Very
So
good. Go ahead.
initially, for a student career, now once if he get into CSC, it's just CSC. It has a lot to offer again.
Okay.
Choosing CSC is easy, and afterwards getting into CSC, it has various domains in it. We can name like we have cybersecurity in it, we have data science in it, we have machine learning in it, we have front-end development, like it includes the JavaScript, the HTML, the CSS. All these come under the front-end development, the website framework.
Means
And then
different
we have
specialization in
backend.
CSC. What do you mean to say? Different
Yes, sir.
specialization.
Different specialization in CSS, like different domains in CSS.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. Now
Go ahead.
after front end, then we can go with the back end. Like we can handle the databases with SQL and SQLite with big data and all. And all these are just the domains after we enter the CSC. So when we enter the BTech life, basically we'll have some common subjects. Be it any domain, we'll definitely have to study some common subjects, like we'll study databases for sure. We'll study some mathematics for sure. And we'll study operating system for sure. Because those are the base foundation courses for any domain.
Okay.
So after entering, we should definitely go through these kind of courses for sure. So now, getting placements in mind, placements they will come for sure for a particular domain, but most of the placements, they always look for software developers.
Okay.
Programming, completely programming part like C, C++, Java, Python. Python also not for data science or not for machine learning, but Python for programming.
Okay. Basic Python.
Python for basic programming. Basic Python for programming. Like in many interviews so far, the questions were a bit easy in the first round, and the next round they deal with data structures and such stuff. But initially in the first round to qualify, the questions will be quite simple. We can definitely refer Geeks for placement preparation. That's literally a very good website. It has definite number of problems, and it has various number of programs to look after. So if we initially search Geeks for Geeks, we have some basic list of programs. Like we'll be surprised sometimes in many, I won't name the company, but in many interviews, they've been even asking the prime number program. For the
I know. Okay.
Of course, we'll be surprised for that because the prime number is such a basic program, but still, they just want to test the basics of the student initially in the first round. Definitely, they're going to increase the level in the second, third, and fourth rounds, but initially in the first round, so the student after getting into the BTech, if placement is in mind, then we should definitely focus the basic C++, basically. Java and Python are optional. If they want to get into the basics, they can. But C++, if they are good with the basics, they can definitely clear the first programming round.
Yeah.
And then
sorry to interrupt.
aptitude and verbal plays a crucial part.
Aptitude and verbal. Okay. Sorry to interrupt. I've gone through some news in this 2 months of lockdown period related to software engineering, and I think one website has published that 95% of Indian engineers cannot be employed. Means they don't have basic programming skills itself. Okay. So by keeping that particular point in mind, I've created a separate course. Why? Because everyone starts with C programming, like start with adding up 2 numbers and displaying a hello world message. But what I've done is I've created some basic foundation course that will be a 15 days course. In that course, I won't be speaking about any programming language. but in fact, I'll be speaking about the foundation, like how the mindset of a programmer should be, how a software engineer should think, and how we
Yes.
can improve our logic. And in fact, you won't believe, I'm teaching one or two games. Through that game, student will understand how loops and if condition works. So
Yes,
in
sir.
this 2 months of lockdown period only, I've designed this special course, which will be as a foundation level. And once you do this course, then you can implement that logic in any programming language. Like, what do you
Yes.
feel about this course? And I think I have discussed about this earlier. The
Yes, sir,
foundation
yes, sir,
level.
definitely, because it will be useful. The foundation level will be definitely useful to someone who's starting fresh in CSC career.
Okay.
So if someone is who doesn't have a domain knowledge about anything, basically they don't know about computers, but they just want to start a career for some basic employment, like, okay, they want to work with data entry, or they want to work with like some basic stuff. They want to just get employed. In that case, they have to start right with the foundation level. And many CSC engineers too, if we consider not everyone, but at least 10 to 15%, they come into the CSC background just with the force.
Okay.
Just with an influence from the back end, like you have to go to CSC and see my son is in CSC, you have to, someone else's son is in CSC and is earning a lot.
Okay.
Basically, as we know, the CSC careers, we have a lot of money afterwards if we settle well in the CSC careers. So the parents will be like, not all, I'm not pointing out anyone too, I'm just telling the scenario, actually the exact scenario. Like they'll be forcing like, so he's earning like that, so you have to get in the CSC career. In such cases, the student who doesn't have the foundation level also will take into CSC course.
Okay.
And after going in, he'll just do the time pass over there. He doesn't know the foundation. He doesn't know how to use a computer too, basically, but still he'll be in CSC. And now many universities, they are not going to test the skills too, but of course, that bias is not at all should be there. Like based on the skills only you should hire, because someone who is having less skills can go into university and get shaped well and come out.
He can improve the skills over there.
He can improve. He can definitely
by looking at the surrounding also. By looking at the surrounding also, he will be improved. Okay.
Yeah, so but for such kind of people, this foundation course will be very good actually.
Sure. Like I'm in a mission to help 100,000 future software engineers. Like those who wants to become software engineer, then simply they can come to me and I'll give the strong foundation, and they can build their career on the top of that strong foundation.
Yes.
And I'm preparing an army. I'm creating an army of my students. Like as you know, I'm teaching since 15 years. So now I'm like gathering all the students who have been settled at different locations, and at some point of time they will be also they'll be also doing mentoring to the newcomers. And this is how I want to just create a hub. Okay. So at advanced level, what you can suggest, and if anyone wants to do at advanced level like machine learning, artificial intelligence, data science, like we will be able to take such classes if anyone is interested. Say something
yes, sir.
about
Definitely, I will. Yes, sir. I am coming into it.
Okay.
That I will definitely. Sir, your video is breaking. Yes, sir. No, I'm audible. Yeah.
Okay.
After finishing this placement talk, then I would definitely come into that particular domain like machine learning and data science and artificial intelligence.
Okay.
I would I'm ready to take the classes for that, sir. I'm sure I can help you with that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I can be a part of this.
Very good.
Sir, so when we talk about the placements, the verbal and aptitude plays a vital part actually. This will be a pain in the neck for many, because they are good with the programming skills, they are good with the basic domain knowledge, like they can answer any question in the interview, but initially they have to clear the aptitude round, and that will be a biggest challenge at all, first of all. So initially, for placements point of view, we need to have many topics like number system should be quite clear, profit and loss, compound interest and simple interest should be quite clear, and coming again, time and work is a very important concept, because we'll get 2 to 3 questions right from that topic. Speed and distance. So basically these topics, and coming to verbal, reading comprehension could play a vital part. Definitely we'll have a comprehension passage in the placement test for sure. We have many tests, like we have AMCAT, we have CoCubes, the placement tests. So these all, so initially for someone who is looking after placement, so the aptitude basics and verbal basics is also quite important along with the basic CSE foundations. That's what I want to tell to everyone. And now for a fresher, many of us know that to be honest, many of us doesn't like to program much.
Yeah.
Many of us doesn't like programming, to be honest, even though we are CSE engineers or even though we get into CSE, but even though we learn C a lot, but still when coming to the implementation of the C language or coming to implementation of Java, many doesn't like to code. They'll theoretically, they'll definitely be good with the basics. They can answer, but coding is quite a difficult part. So for such kind of students, machine learning and data science could definitely be a particular domain to aim at.
Okay.
I can never say that doesn't ask coding. That's definitely wrong. We should surely code in machine learning and data science. There is a lot of coding, but that completely depends on the syntactic knowledge.
Okay. Not
if
deep
we
coding.
get in clear, yes. Like for the role of software developer, the companies look after is competitive programming level, like how he's using the dynamic programming techniques, how he's using the greedy approach, like how we apply the data structures and data analysis and algorithms. So it will completely revolve around such topics, and for many they are quite complicated. And you can definitely say I'm one of it.
Okay.
Yeah, even in the case of competitive programming, even I'm not experienced.
Okay.
So for such kind of mindset, like we have the good knowledge of syntax, we can implement the basic stuff, we can definitely code till a intermediate level. I never say the basic, we should definitely get to the intermediate level, but not the advanced. For such students who are at intermediate level of coding, data science and machine learning can play a vital part in their career if they choose to.
Okay.
Now coming to it, Python is the base of data science and machine learning. There are basically two languages, Python and R. The industry mainly focuses on Python. They equally use R. So for becoming a machine learning engineer or becoming a data specialist, you should definitely have the knowledge of Python along with R, but Python is the base because many industries choose Python to go with the machine learning. As I've said, if one is clear with the C programming language, if he knows the logic well, so learning the syntax of Python is not a big deal. Python is quite easy. It is quite easy to implement, to be honest. It's the easiest of all programming languages because we have many inbuilt libraries. We just need to call the library, import the library, and then we can definitely use it directly without coding much revolving around the logic. So Python is, and it's an easy language, a high-level programming language. Like it has many applications too. It is widely used in NLP, natural language processing. It is used in machine learning. It is used in data science. Like advanced technologies are actually met with Python.
So if anyone wants to work with data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, they need to go with basic Python.
Yes. Python is again divided into two parts. Like we can divide it or not, I don't know, but it's complete Python. But I feel it's better to divide something. Like instead of combining everything and learning it completely, we can divide Python into two parts. Like the basic Python till classes, till object-oriented programming, that Python helps in coding.
Okay.
That Python is basically about coding. And then there are certain packages in Python like NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, and Seaborn. Now basically NumPy is an n-dimensional array.
Okay.
We need to work with NumPy, and Pandas is to create data frames. I'll talk about it in detail in the coming time now again. But I'm just giving the basic framework right now. Pandas is for creating data frames and to make certain operations on data, to make exploratory data analysis. So Pandas will be such framework. And again, we have Matplotlib. Matplotlib is for visualization. Whatever we have done, we have to visualize it for sure. In a data science point of view, we have to analyze the patterns in data. So for that analysis, we use Matplotlib. And Seaborn is just an updated version of it. After Seaborn is coming into action, many of the people stop using Matplotlib, but each one has its own implementation. Now, coming to Python. Now, if you allow me to, I will definitely give an overview. I will not get into the complete syntax, but I will definitely give an overview of from starting to ending of Python in just 15 to 20 minutes. Can I go with it, sir?
Yeah, you can go ahead so that it will be useful for the people who are watching this video.
Yes, sir.
And if anyone
So
is watching this video at this time, means definitely they are interested to know something more. Otherwise, what happens,
Yes, sir.
people will start, they'll just look for 2-3 minutes and they'll close this. But if anyone is watching to this time, actually, that's nothing but they really committed to do something in their career. Okay. So I think for them, you can continue this. Are you getting my
Yes,
point?
sir,
What I'm
sure,
saying?
sure. Yes, sir. Sure, I got it.
Fine, fine. You can go ahead. No problem.
Now coming to Python, as I've said, Python is very easy to implement. The syntax is quite easy. The indentation looks quite clear. It is readable format. Now, initially in any programming language, we start with the hello world, and that's the same with the Python. Initially, for the print statement, we go with the print. The print is the keyword for printing, and then we get in with the
Double quotes.
circular brackets, and it will give the string. And if we want a particular format, in C language, we give the specifiers like %d and percentage
different
f
format
like that, and
specifiers
we
we
give
use.
variable. Now here in Python, it's quite easy. Just give, for suppose my name is Vardhan. I want to print Vardhan. Vardhan is in variable.
Yeah.
My name is, and we'll give curly braces, open and close, and dot format of and that variable. Dot format function is used to give a particular format to the printing statement.
Okay.
And in the same manner, we have a separator function, SEP. If we have 3 different values in the same line, like if we have the phone number, we have the pin code for suppose 533-123-123. If you want that kind of format, we can definitely use sep is equals to hyphen. So that is used for that. Sep keyword is used for that. So these are the basic and end. There's another keyword called end. So if we use end after a sentence, if we give a space in it, the next sentence will definitely start after that particular space because you're giving end equals to space in a particular sentence.
It works
So
like
these
/n
are
in
the-
C language. /n in
Yes,
C
sir.
language. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Basically in Python, if we write 2 print statements in 2 different lines, they come in one by line, like print my name is and then print Vardhan. They come one by one, like my name is and then Vardhan. If you use end equals to space, it will print my name is space Vardhan.
Okay.
So this is the basic formatting. Like we have end, we have format, and we have separators. So now getting into data types. Now in C language, we will give different data types like int a is equals, while declaring variables, we'll give int a is equals to 5, float d is equals to 2.5. But in Python, it's very clever. We doesn't need to specify the data type. We'll just need to declare the variable. That's it. We'll give
Based
a is
upon the
equals
data,
to
it
5.
takes automatically. Based
Yes,
upon the data,
yeah,
it will take.
Yes, sir. If we just give a is equals to 5, it will automatically assign the type of integer to a in Python.
Yeah.
And in Python, we never call it like int, float, and such stuff. We call them numbers. We have integer numbers, we have floating numbers, we have complex numbers. Like if you give 1 plus 2j, like something, if you involve j in it, it will recognize the type as complex numbers. And then we have Boolean numbers like true or false.
Yeah.
We have bool type. And now there are 4 again, and based on these 4, we can basically in any programming, that's what I'm telling. If we are clear with the basics, we'll know the flow definitely. Like if we have C programming, initially we learn data types, then we'll go with operators, then we'll go with functions. So the same flow will carry on here also. Initially we'll go with print statements, we'll go with formatting. So the flow remains same, it's just a syntactic difference. That's why I've said the basic is quite important.
Okay.
Yes, now we'll go with the operators the same. We have arithmetic operators, we have relational operators, we have logical operators like and, we have bitwise operators. Everything is same. The operators concept is same. And in Python, we have another advantage, like if we write 5**2, it takes as an exponent. Yeah. If we give 2 asterisks, it takes as an exponent, it will give the result 25. 5**2. So that's the basic thing. Now I'm discussing all this not for the advanced Python programmers. They'll definitely see me like, okay, what now you're teaching this. Okay. But I am just
I know this is for basics.
Just starting the programming language.
Like starting to start the journey with Python.
And also I would definitely dedicate this period to advanced programmers just to revise what they've learned.
Okay.
A basic revise, a revision, complete revision of this Python programming. And now after operators, then we go with 4 basic types. We go with list, we go with tuple, we go with dictionary, and we go with sets. When we go with list is immutable. List is mutable actually. We can have when we compare array and list, array only stores homogeneous data. And we come to list, it has strings, it has numbers, it has anything, it has heterogeneous data. So coming to list, we have various operations in list. We can append the value at the end of the list. We can insert at a particular index with insert function. And we can, if we want to append multiple values at the end, we can use extend function to like passing a list of numbers to append at the end. Like we have various operations. Now, once we get to know about the type, the operations are not a big deal because we can search in the internet right there and then use for the applications. It's not a problem at all. We have the internet for free. We can definitely use anything. So the basic thing is we just got to know the framework. And now next, if we go to tuples are immutable. We can never change the value of it. We can never add it into tuples separately. We can just concatenate two tuples, but we can never, it is fixed. It is completely fixed. So, I forgot to mention like slicing plays an important part in any of the data, be it in list or be it in tuple. Slicing. What is slicing is, so suppose my name is Vardhan. I want to extract only Vardhan from that string. We give an index. The index will be like row, colon, starting index, colon, and ending index. If you want to access from the last, in the ending index, we can use -1. -1 is for the last element. -2 is for the last but one element. So if we use negative indexing also we can use. And there's an extra parameter in slicing too, like step. We can give the step. Like from 5th location to 9th location. And if we give the step is 2, then it will fetch 2 characters from 5th location, 9th location. That plays a vital part. Slicing is important in Python too. And next comes the, as I've said, tuples. And tuples also we can get the max element, we can get the min element, but we can't change a particular value. And now coming to sets. Sets are like, it always stores a unique value. So it is denoted with curly braces. It only stores unique values. It is not ordered at all, actually. It has no order. Like in list, if we access list of, suppose the list name is A. If you want to access the 5th element, we can give list of 4, then we get the 5th element. But if we use the same trick in sets, we can never access. It will throw an error because list doesn't have indexing. Set doesn't have indexing. Set never has indexing. It is unordered. So it just stores unique values, and then we can apply various operations. Like we can perform like intersection, union, difference. These kind of operations can be performed easily with set. And in the real world use case, set is always used to fetch the unique values. If we go to the real world usage. And now dictionary. Dictionary is a key value pairs concept. We have separate keys, and for the particular keys, we have values. Dictionary, we can have nested dictionary too. Like for particular key, we can again have a particular key and again have values. That is nested dictionary. And to add elements, we use the update function. And again, it has a hell lot of functions too. Python is like, it's really powerful. We need not code for reverse and all. We have inbuilt functions. We have a lot of functions to use on. So it's just how we explore the concepts after just we are getting into the basics. Now next thing comes is functions. Now the functions in Python, we declare the functions the def keyword, the DEF, and we put a colon after the declaring, and then the indentation, as we all know, the basic Python, that should start in the next line a bit to the right. The indentation, it has a particular indentation. Now the function parameters, we can have function with no parameter. We can have function with default parameters, like initially giving the parameters right in the function call and giving the parameters right in the function definition. And Python supports like initially, for suppose int addition is there, and we are giving a comma b while defining the function in the definition. Now when we are calling it, we are passing 5, 7 and 9. We are passing 3 parameters. Yeah, it will definitely throw an error because Python also throws an error actually. Because it actually accepts only 2 parameters. But there's a special means of accessing such kind of things. We have star args. If we put in bracket star args is not mandatory. You can use any name. But the pointer is quite important over there. Star args, it accepts n number of values. If you simply write int addition of star args and you call the function with 5, 7, 8, 9, be it with any number of parameters, it will definitely take. So that's a thing in functions. And after functions, then something we got to discuss is like class. We'll definitely go to the class directly. Now getting into class, in Python, we have a special keyword like __, init __. It is
It's
just,
like,
it
it
just
comes
comes like
into object-oriented programming concepts completely.
yes, object-oriented programming concept now. Like that's what I've said. We are entering into classes now. Now, in class we have special keyword, like it works as a constructor.
Okay.
It definitely has a self variable, reference variable. Like when we create an object, that variable points to this created object and then it accesses the variables in it. Self keyword is not mandatory, but it's general a programming practice. We use generally self, but the keyword is mandatory. We no need to use self. We can use any name, but the particular parameter is mandatory because it points to the reference to the created object.
Okay. Works
So
as a
that's the
constructor
concept
and
of class.
initializes the object values.
Yes, yes.
Works
sir,
as a
yes.
constructor and initializes the object values.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That works. That's the function of init. And be it any method, in when we declare in a class in Python, we should definitely have that reference parameter for sure.
Okay.
Even though function doesn't accept anything, it is a function with no parameters, but we'll still define that self keyword in that. Self is not a keyword. Don't take me wrong. We can use any word, but initially, what is the word we have used in the init? That word should be in every method for sure. In the
For the
parameters
program, we have to
access
use that one.
Yes, yes. When we are working with classes in Python. And thing is same, like in C++ object oriented, we have inheritance, we have single inheritance, we have multiple inheritance, we have multi-level.
Like once you are
Yeah,
good
exact
at
thing is
OOPS
same.
concepts, once you are good at
Yes,
OOPS
yes, yes.
concepts, any programming
That's
language
what,
which is based upon OOPS, we can work.
that's what I've said, sir. Initially, in C programming, if you are good at loops, the same loops are in Python, the same loops are in Java. Initially, if you are good at
Syntax
C++
may be different.
object-oriented programming, the same object-oriented programming will be in Java and same object-oriented will be in Python too. But
You're right, you're right.
it's little variations. It has
Syntax may be
little variations
little
and
bit
that we
different,
have to
that's
adopt. Yes, that's it. And I forgot to talk about loops in Python. Yeah. When we use loops, we use for loop and we use while loop and everything is same. But for now we have a special feature over here. Now if there is an array in C programming we have to traverse to the entire array, we have to write a loop again, we have to access the element again. Now,
Indexing,
here in Python,
using index values, we have to access it.
Yeah, in Python, we have a simple code for I is some variable, some iterator in a list. If we print I, we'll definitely get all the values in the list in Python. That's quite simple. And we use the range function to define for I is equals to 0, I plus I less than some condition I plus in C. In the same way, if we want to loop through a particular range, we can use for I in range of 0, 10, and we can use the step value too with the commas and the parameters. So this is all about the basic Python, and this Python is sufficient only for programming paradigm. As far as my knowledge, this Python is definitely sufficient. This much part, working with database like importing SQLite library and working with threads. This much of Python is definitely good. This is the base of the Python, but we still have something advanced. If you want to get into the industry of machine learning and data science, basically, I want to tell something. For machine learning and data science, we need the base first. Once we get into the base, then we get into the concepts of machine learning and data science. No one can become an expert in machine learning and data science for sure, because it's an advancement of technology. It never stays constant. It advances day by day, day by day, day by day. Because right now, if we consider the scenario in this year, we have 44 zettabytes of data generated every year from now on. We have huge amount of data being generated.
And it will increase day by day.
Data,
no doubt in it.
Data is everywhere because everyone is using smartphone right now. Every e-commerce website they visit, data is generated. Every SMS they send, data is generated. Everything they access, data is generated. So there's a hell lot of data being generated everywhere. And now, to be honest, with this kind of advancement in data and advancement of technology, machine learning, data science, big data are a hotcake in the market right now. Definitely as I'm telling, no one can become an expert, but if they're good with the basic understanding, from then on, they can upskill themselves. Daily with the advancement, they can follow up with the advancement.
As per industry requirement,
yes.
As per industry requirement, they can upgrade.
Yes, sir. If they doesn't know the basics and if they directly go to the advancement, that can never help. We are already late. Actually, the advancement is going on in quite rapid, fast rate. So, if we get to the basic level of machine learning, then we can definitely go with something. Now, many are confused about the terms artificial intelligence and machine learning and data science. What is artificial intelligence? What is machine learning? And what is data science? Many are confused with it. to talk about it in detail, artificial intelligence let's not get to complex explanations or complex definitions. Let's get it simple. Artificial intelligence is a word like you are training the machine to act like you. That is artificial intelligence. What we are performing, we want the machines to perform. That is basically artificial intelligence. And now to train that particular model, we use the ML techniques.
Okay.
That is machine learning. To train that particular model with certain parameters, like, yes, we have to perform like this. Yes, we have to perform like this. Then if we train that model, for that purpose, we use machine learning. And data science, after training the model, we get some results. We get certain results. Now, picking up the patterns from that results is data science. Picking up the patterns and visualizing it to like the benefit of the industry, visualizing it to a great extent, that is data science. Data science is such a vast field that at least 7 to 8 years experience is required to become a data scientist. Even I'm at the beginner level, to be honest, the beginner level of data science, because we need 7 to 8 experience to become an expert data scientist for sure. We need to learn a vast knowledge.
One question, like if someone wants to become data scientist, do they need to work with Oracle? I mean, basic DBMS knowledge is required for them, or it's not required?
Yes, sir. DBMS knowledge is quite required, because sometimes we work with the data. That's what I'm telling you. Data science domain, we train the model. And for training the model, we have various parameters. Like sometimes we have the data set with us and sometimes we never. We have to work with the SQL commands too. We have to work with the big data too. We have to definitely work with the SQL commands to extract data sometimes.
So if they have basic Oracle knowledge, it will be easy for them.
Yes. Definitely SQL knowledge should be, yes. They require it for sure. They need the basics. They doesn't need it completely, but they need the basics for sure. They need to understand it. And now, yes, I'm talking about machine learning, right? Yes, to train the model and then extracting the patterns is of data science. Now, for machine learning, to learn machine learning, there are two base foundations, first of all. To get ready to learn machine learning, initially we have two necessities. We have to learn with the advanced Python, like working with NumPy and Pandas, as I've said earlier, and statistics. Statistics plays a vital part in machine learning.
Okay.
For all those who love maths, and all those who like statistics a lot, trust me, they can do wonders in machine learning, because it completely depends on the basic statistics knowledge. If they know
there are some students who love maths a lot, and from mathematics, again, if they love statistics a lot, I think machine learning is for them.
Yes, sir. It will be like a cakewalk for the beginning.
Okay.
Of course, machine learning is not at all easy. It's such a complex topic. Like it has many in it. It has huge scope of working. But to get to the basics, if they love mathematics, that would definitely help them with the understanding of the algorithms well.
It will be an added advantage for statistics students.
Yes, surely. That will be easy for them to learn quickly. In case of statistics. Like, see, I'll just explain now. As I've said, two basic needs. Like I've said, I've explained the complete details of Python inside. Now Python coming to arrays and pandas. Pandas is such a framework to extract data from Excel files or CSV files or JSON files. We can extract that data. Pandas is used for that.
Okay.
Pandas is definitely used for that. Now it has various operations. Again, if we go to the in-depth, then we can definitely discuss, but not now because we have a lot to discuss more. The time is not that much there. So we'll definitely plan another session. Sure. And coming to the NumPy arrays also, but these are all just the basic framework required for Python. And coming to the statistics, now let us assume something. We have length, we have breadth, and we have area, 3 columns. Now in basic machine learning, we have label, we have features and label. Features are independent variables and label is dependent variable. Like see, length into breadth equals to area.
Yeah.
Now here, length is independent, breadth is independent, but area is dependent. But area is dependent because A is equals to L into B. Area varies with length and breadth.
Without L and B, there won't be area. Without L and B,
it varies.
won't get
Actually, if we change the values of L, if we change the values of B, area will be varying. So it is dependent.
Yeah.
And length and breadth are independent features. And now there's a concept of covariance in statistics, as we all know.
Yeah.
It's a basic concept. Sorry. We have covariance. And we check the covariance between 2 columns. Like if one is increasing, the other is decreasing or not. Like if one is increasing, the other is increasing or not. Otherwise, it has no correlation at all. So we'll use covariance for it. And then comes the Pearson coefficient. Pearson coefficient is like covariance tells us like it is dependent or not. Like if this is increasing, if this is not increasing or not. If this is decreasing, if this is not decreasing or not. Covariance just tells up till there. If you use Pearson coefficient, that will tell you the strength of dependency, how much it is dependent. Like it is dependent 90% or dependent 80%, like how much it is dependent will definitely tell you. And we use this for linear data. Like if our points like, should I share the screen? No, actually,
Yeah, you
I will
can
share it
share.
afterwards. Wait just a minute, sir, I will share it.
Okay.
Is my screen visible, sir?
Yeah, it's a paintbrush, na? Paint.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
Yes, sir, yes. And now, kindly ignore my drawing. That's quite.
Okay, no problem. Go ahead.
And now these are our data points. Consider for suppose. This is x-axis and this is y-axis. And now this is a kind of non-linear data. It doesn't have a straight line.
Yeah.
So when we talk about statistics, we talk about coefficients right now. I said Pearson coefficient is used for linear data. Then comes the Spearman's coefficient. Then we work with the non-linear data, like the data points are non-linear as I've shown right now. And
Okay.
that deals with the computing the ranks and then giving you the strength of the correlation between them. And this is, we need to know Gaussian distribution. We need to know standard normal distribution, Gaussian distribution, and this kind of stuff for sure. And we need to, there are two basic terms like population and sample mean. Population is a huge set. Like if we have 10,000 data items, let's take a simple example. We are conducting a survey. If we are conducting a survey for the entire state of Andhra Pradesh, it will definitely give, like, we can never do that. One single person can never do that.
Mhm.
So if we consider the Andhra Pradesh as the entire population, and if we consider the mean as the population mean, just take a sample of East Godavari. Take a sample of East Godavari and compute this mean. This mean will be approximately equal to the Andhra Pradesh mean. And this is called the sample mean. It can never be equal, but it will be approximately equal.
Approximate
This is
value
called
we can
sample
get
mean.
it.
Yes. This is called sample mean. That is called the population mean. So this is the basic statistics required to get into machine learning. Now let's not waste time anymore, Romeo. Let's get into the machine learning. If we get into machine learning, there are basic three types of learning. We have supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. When we come to supervised learning, let's take a simple example. If we have mangoes and if we have oranges, in traditional programming, what we say is, okay, if the color is orange, if the color is orange, then recognize it as orange. Or if the color is yellow or it is something like green, then recognize it as mango. That's the traditional programming paradigm. But when coming to machine learning, we'll teach the machine. We'll supervise the machine in supervised learning. The labeled data will be there. We'll ask the machine. We'll tell the machine like, okay, this is mango. This is orange. This is mango. This is orange. So it will generate rules for it. When we give the data, we give the question and we give the answer to, it will generate the rule to get the answer. So in future, if we show a mango to it and we ask it, it will definitely say, yes, it is a mango. And if it is able to say it, then we can definitely say that we trained the model well. And if it is not able to say it, like then we had some inconsistency in training the model. That is basically supervised learning. It is teaching the machine how to perform on a particular metric.
Okay.
Now, in supervised learning, we have two kinds of problem statements. We have regression and we have classification. Coming to regression, it is like prediction of continuous values, single continuous value. If we consider the housing prices problem, the most famous problem in Kaggle and yes, I forgot to mention, for any aspiring data scientist or machine learning engineer, Kaggle would be a great platform to upskill themselves. We have plenty number of data sets in Kaggle, and there will be huge number of competitions going on every day. We can definitely participate in it. And we can get into a particular accuracy levels for our models, training the models and all. Kaggle would be such
what you can do is, you can give me the links of all these things what you have said, so that I'll put below this video. So if anyone wants to refer, they can refer it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
No, this whatever you have said, na, these resources links you can share me so
I'll
that I
I'll
can
I'll, I'll definitely.
yeah, I'll put this
Uh,
below this video in the description box so that it will be
yes.
helpful for them to refer, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll definitely share you some links. I'll definitely share you some cheat codes to machine learning too. That will be useful.
Sure, sure.
And now coming, where am I? Yeah, supervised learning, regression and classification. And now for regression, famous pricing problem like California housing pricing problem, the Boston housing pricing problem. That is, in a particular area, we have the data already. In a particular area, this is the price of a house. We have this data, and in future we are predicting the price based on various parameters. This is regression.
Okay.
Like now I'm sharing the screen. In regression and classification, I'm not getting into detail. We have enough. We don't have enough
We'll,
time.
we'll take a separate session again. We'll take a separate session on this.
Yes, sir. I'll definitely explain one concept in regression and one concept in classification, and remaining I'll just give the brief.
Okay.
When going to regression concept, let me clear it completely. When going to regression concept, we all know the line equation. Oh, sorry. Is my screen visible, sir?
No, it's not shared still now. It's not visible.
Yes, sir. I'm sharing it. I'm sharing. Now is it visible, sir?
Yeah, power like paintbrush, no, it's visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now this is considered like area, and this is price. Consider like this, sir. So initially our equation will be y is equals to mx plus c for single variable, simple linear regression. The line will be, if we consider c is equals to 0 and m is equals to 0, if we consider c is equals to 0 and m is equal to 1, y will be x. That means the line will be passing right from here when x is 0.
Okay.
So let's consider we have some points like this. Now regression is getting a line that best fits all the points.
Okay.
Right. We'll find out the best fitting line so that this line will go on like this. And in future, if we want to get the price at this area, we'll predict at here.
Right.
This is the concept of regression. And this basically works on optimizing this m value is quite important in regression.
Okay.
And for that we use the convergence theorem. It will state that, wait just a minute. This is the graph for gradient descent. This is called the gradient descent for all those who know about the basics of machine learning. This is the graph for gradient descent. This is how we compute the m value. This point is global minima. The m keeps on decreasing. We'll vary the parameters of m, like we'll try with 0.1, we will try with 0.2, like till certain stage where m should reach here. In this position, we train the value of m so that we get the results accurately. We get the best fit line that can fit all the points. So basically this concept is called regression, and to optimize it, we use the gradient descent concept. That's what I've told right now here. This is the basic part of regression. And now to go into more detailed form in regression, okay, chalo, we'll stop here. Nothing else. And again, it will take, if I go into depth, then again, it will go into somewhat more. We'll definitely take another session for it.
And I think if it is lengthy video, people won't be having that much of time.
Won't be having that much patience to look at it.
And what happens, okay, the real important points they'll be missing.
Skipping it,
Video is lengthy, they'll miss the important points.
So in regression, we have simple linear regression, and we have a multiple linear regression when we have multiple features. And we have polynomial regression when the data is nonlinear. So these are the terms. I'm just telling you the basic terms so that all those who want to learn machine learning can get a brief insight of what they have to learn.
Okay.
Multiple linear regression. And then coming to the classification, we have naive-Bayes classifier, and we have KNN. These all are classifications. We have logistic regression, and it uses sigmoid function, like it will predict will it rain or not. If we just take a simple statement, will it rain or not? Based on certain parameters, the machine will be able to predict, yes, it will rain, no, it will not rain. Bayes theorem works on probability. It will calculate the probability and then say that, okay, it will rain today or it will rain not today. So this is the process with the supervised learning. We have many examples. We have our Alexa, we have Siri, we have Google Assistant, which works on this kind of learning. It will get trained with our voices, and then it will give the desired result.
Right,
And if we consider another real life scenario, weather predicting, the predicting of weather is done with the supervised learning. And if we consider another example like the supermarket, like if we searches the past history of the particular customer, like what set of products he bought, we can predict what set of products he's going to buy in the future.
in future also.
So all this kind of stuff comes under supervised machine learning. And then there is unsupervised. The supervised machine learning, we told the machine that this is orange and this is apple. And unsupervised machine, we never tell it. Unsupervised machine learning, we never tell the machine, we just give the pictures.
Okay.
And it will cluster them based on the pictures. It will check the shape. Like if you suppose a famous example while explaining unsupervised learning, dogs and cats. If you take this example, dog have four legs and it has a particular shape completely differing with cat. So it will cluster all the dogs to one side and will cluster all the dogs to cats. And this won't happen with previous training. It will then go on right at the moment. Whenever we see a dog, we push it into dog category. Whenever we see a cat, we push it into cat category. Cat category. It's just like teaching a baby, a small baby. Like
it will be learning every time whenever a new picture is given.
Yes. If we teach our small baby, like if we get a dog to her, she'll classify that, okay, this is kind of dog. And if some relatives get another dog, she can definitely identify it is also a dog because it is similar to this.
Right.
If the other neighbor gets a cat, she'll identify that, no, this is not dog, this is something else. So she'll get another group for it. This is called unsupervised learning. Okay. And reinforcement, coming to reinforcement learning, unsupervised learning, I forgot to mention, we have clustering, we have K-means clustering, we have fuzzy clustering, we have C clustering, C-means clustering. We have different concepts. We'll definitely talk about it later in complete detail. And as I've told you, I would definitely be helping your foundation with the machine learning and data science course. I'll definitely be there.
Thank you.
And next, coming with the reinforcement learning. If we come to reinforcement learning, we'll definitely train the machine. The machine will show us, okay, this is apple. And if that is really apple, we'll give it some points. We'll give it a reward. If it is not an apple, we'll subtract some points. With that, when the points are increasing, it will definitely know that, okay, this is correct. I'm predicting correct. And if the points are decreasing, no, I'm predicting wrong and I have to go to increase again. I have to check for another opportunity. This is reinforcement learning. Okay. And coming to unsupervised learning, what example we can tell? There is semi-supervised learning. Now we have the Google Photos. Initially, when we take the first photo of a person, it is unsupervised because it doesn't know the person. Yeah. But once if we take a photo, if we take another photo of the same person, it will automatically show you like, okay, this person is recognized.
Yeah, and it will keep them into one group actually. Okay, all these photos will be in one group.
Yes. So this basically works on both unsupervised and supervised. Initially it works on unsupervised and then it works on supervised. Because initially when a new picture is coming in, it doesn't know. It's just a picture. It doesn't know. Once it stores in a particular category, if another picture of the same person comes in, it will definitely group it. This is supervised. So it is semi-supervised, like using both of them in the same thing. So this is the base of the machine learning.
Means directly or indirectly, everywhere we are implementing this. Means
machine learning.
Everywhere it's there actually.
Yes. In our real world, the more we implement, the best technology we implement is machine learning. We identify, we use the cameras on the road. We use cameras to track the speed. We use the cameras to detect the objects, to insert some traffic lights over there. All these real life examples, they work with machine learning and deep learning. Completely dependent on machine learning and deep learning. We train the machine instead of we working on everything. We train the machine and we ask the machine to perform that stuff instead of us. Great. So machine learning is such a vital concept. So this is, if some, I never say machine learning is confined to a particular point, but this is the base. What all I have told till now, these are all I never went into deep insight of every topic, but I just told the complete insight what we have to learn. So if we get to know about the basics of supervised, unsupervised and reinforcement learning, then 50% of our machine learning work is done. From then on, it just depends on us how we upskill by doing various projects. It completely depends on us. This is about machine learning. And now in machine learning, exploratory data analysis plays a vital part. Now, if we give useless data to the machine, it definitely predicts wrong. we have to format the data in such a way that it should definitely give some accurate results. So for that we use pandas. We treat the missing values, and for categorical values, machine doesn't recognize categorical values. So we have to get underscore dummies in pandas. Otherwise we use the imputer in scikit-learn. Now one thing, machine learning implementing is quite easy because we have the scikit library in Python. As I've said, Python is so powerful programming language. It has everything in it. It has scikit-learn library and it will definitely implement. But the maths intuition behind it is quite important. We just need to know the working, and the implementation is quite easy. It's of like 2 to 3 statements. We'll call the model, we'll fit the model, we'll predict. That's it. But the maths intuition behind it is quite important. We need to know how it is working and what parameters we should pass. That is important. This is all about machine learning. And now coming to data science, after we create a model, we create something, it will predict something, we need to analyze the patterns. And Tableau is one such powerful tool to analyze the patterns.
Yeah.
It's a powerful visualization tool that the industry is currently using it a lot. And I'll just show you the interface. I'm not going to teach you something right now with the Tableau. I'm not going to take this more further and confuse everyone. But I'm just telling the tool. I'm just showing the interface. This is the basic Tableau interface. Now, if you open a sheet, these are all the columns in the sheet, dimensions and measures, and these are all the numerical data, and these are all the categorical data dimensions. We can create a calculated field to we use Excel to calculate some if conditions and all. To apply formatting in Excel, we use if conditions and we use separate statements. In Tableau, we have a particular calculated field. We have many inbuilt string functions also. We can implement all the functions and get a required data. We have wide amount of charts. We have histograms. We have racing bar charts. We have funnel charts. We have Pareto charts. There are different charts for visualization, for extracting. And this is one of the examples. This is the racing bar chart. And this is the calendar chart, like to get in complete detail. And this is like just some sample tab files like I've been working on. And to get the heat map, we get the complete latitude and longitude inbuilt in Python. We get the complete map. So whenever we have the data completely, state data or something else in our dimensions, it will automatically recognizes the position in the map. It has that feature in Tableau. So it will give the count of something. If we just give the quantity of sales in a particular state, it will give you the count like this if we use this map. And this is the basic dashboard.
Yeah, Vardhan, if someone wants to start with Tableau, like what they require basically? Basically, do they need to work with Excel? Is it mandatory to have knowledge in Excel?
They can directly start with Tableau.
Okay.
The thing is, like in Excel, creating dashboards would be quite difficult when compared to Tableau. Tableau is quite easy, but if they till now what I've said is like in C programming language, if we know the complete flow, then it is easy.
Yeah.
For the next time,
the one who is expert.
Excel also.
Yeah. If the one who is expert in Excel, then I think it
can definitely work on Tableau easily.
Cakewalk. It's a cakewalk for them.
Tableau easily. Yes. Okay. So this is the basic dashboard in Tableau.
Okay.
And this is what I want to talk about machine learning and data science in this session. If you want me to show some demo projects, I would definitely love to show you with Excel and one machine learning project.
Okay. So you have now, yeah, you can show me.
Okay, sir, just a minute. I'm sharing the screen with you. Sir, is my screen visible?
Still not.
Just a minute. It's taking a bit time to load the Excel sheet. Yes, sir. Now I got it. I'm sharing the screen with you. You can see it, sir, right here.
Yeah, yeah, I can see.
Now this is the dashboard I made for the IPL analysis from 2014 to 2019 in Excel. Basically, this is a project in Excel. And this is the statistics button, and just a minute. It takes time to load.
So this is completely done in MS Excel only?
Yes, sir, only Excel.
Only Excel, great.
I've done using pivot tables.
Okay. People should know the power of Excel actually.
Yes, sir, actually. Definitely, because this is the visualization project, and we have different objectives for it. And these are the objectives. So we can go through all the pages like this.
Okay.
You can go through all the pages. I am a big MS Dhoni fan, so I've used this picture in the back domain.
Very good.
And it completely has it has a particular year. In a particular year, we can get the most man of the match awards, and also certain objectives are there. So see, in this case, in the year 2017, most man of the match awards are Rohit Sharma has got the most man of the match awards. It's showing you easily. So this is objective 4, and these are all the most successful team. In 2018, most successful team is Chennai Super Kings, and coming to 2019, most successful team is Mumbai Indians. It will give the comparison between all the teams: wins batting first, wins chasing.
So how much time you have spent to do this? Like how much time you have spent to do this?
This one is I spent around 15 to 20 days working on it.
Yeah. Why? Because you have to collect the data first.
I have to collect it because the data is huge. I downloaded it from Kaggle, and the data is quite huge. And it's almost consisting of 2 to 3 lakh rows.
Oh my God. So where you have stored the data? The whole data is in Excel.
Excel only. That's why it is taking a bit to load the project. So that's the problem. It's working with a huge data. So this is one of the project, and I'm getting you with another chatbot which I've developed. The basic chatbot, I never say that's an advanced one. That's just a basic chatbot that can recognize what you're doing. And just a minute.
Using which technology you have developed the chatbot?
Chatbots are basic machine learning. Like I've used TF-IDF factorizer. There's a word called TF-IDF factorizer.
Okay.
And that will convert the text data into vectors.
Okay.
Vectors that are recognized by the machine. And then there's a concept called cosine similarity. Cosine similarity is we'll enter a query. After entering a query, that query compares the distance with the text that is in the actual text.
Okay.
So the nearest answer will come on screen.
Fine.
It works on that concept. When I have actually done it. It completely works on what data we provide. I have worked on the Facebook data. Like I just gave the complete detail of Facebook page, Wikipedia page, to its database. I just use files. That's it. That's the basic bot. So whatever question you ask, for suppose you ask who is the founder of Facebook.
Okay.
That is the query. And now we have vectors. The text data is converted into vectors. So this query is also converted into vectors, and this query vector and that particular word which is there, like who is founded in that particular text, those will be compared. So based on the distance, which are at closest point, that result will come out. That's the concept.
Okay. So you're getting accurate results. Yeah. Have you tested that?
Yes, sir. The model will be working like to give you up to 65%, 65 to 70% accuracy, because I'm just using machine learning.
Okay.
Now I have to use deep. Now I'm actually going in advanced. I'm using deep learning for it, so that it will definitely increase its accuracy more.
Very.
That's why I've said like it's just a basic bot. Like if anyone want to get into the introduction to the bot, it can definitely.
Yeah, just to begin the journey, that is enough, na? Just to begin the journey,
yes, to begin the journey. Be it any small project, but the most efficient manner in which we can learn is to build projects.
Yeah. You need to start your journey first.
Yes, sir. Yes. Just a minute. I'm sharing the screen again. Okay. This is not possible for this one. Just a minute. Documents. Sorry for the delay, sir. Just loading. I'm sharing the screen. Yes, sir. So this is my Trisk 2.0. I've just named it funnily Trisk 2.0
Okay.
based on the recommendation of my best friend. And now we can enter something. Have you heard it?
Yeah.
And is it visible, sir?
Yeah, I can see clearly. Still clear.
And if we type hello, we say hi. And now, who founded Facebook?
Okay.
Can you see the result?
Okay. Yeah.
It was founded by Mark Zuckerberg. And it has the voice recognition too.
Okay, great. Okay.
Hi, hello. Hey there. There's a problem with this one. It's
No
there's
problem.
a huge amount of data. It's not loading.
Okay. And that too, we are on Zoom again.
I'm running on the local system, sir, so that's why there's a lot of problem with it.
No problem.
And
So
I
finally-
can definitely say that, yes, sir, there's just one more thing left. Like we can use the Google Colab to work with all these stuff. Instead of
Okay.
getting onto the local machine, we can use the Google Cloud Colab services provided by the Google. That is quite fast. We can definitely use that too.
Is it free or like?
It is free. It's absolutely free. It is free. We need not pay anything. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So finally, what as a conclusion, what is your suggestion to your young coming software engineers?
Definitely, like the suggestion means they'll just laugh at me right now because even I am writing code here. I shouldn't give certain suggestions, but still, out of my experience, what all I can say is get a particular domain in mind. Get some goal in mind. Like, yes, we have to work on particular domain instead of okay, I'm going into CSC. That's not sufficient at all. After going into CSC, what are you going to choose? In which side? No one can master the front end as well as the data science as well as the machine learning as well as cybersecurity. Everyone
You
has
have to be master in one.
get to their interest. Everyone has to get to their interest, master one, and then if they really want to go with something else, they can definitely go. So that's the point over something.
Fine.
So that's what I want to tell. That's recognize their interest and get into that particular field.
Very good, Vardhan. Very good. And we'll do one thing like every month we'll be selecting one topic and we'll be discussing on this. So I think it will be very easy for our audience to follow us.
Yes, sir.
Isn't
Definitely.
it?
Definitely.
Huh? Okay. So
Yes,
Vardhan, thank you so much. I think we have spent nearly 1 hour of time. Okay. And if anyone watching this video in YouTube, friends, if you have any question, just type below this video in the comment box and we'll come forward to answer those questions. Okay. So shall we conclude, Vardhan? Is anything to say?
Yes, sir. Well, definitely. There's nothing left. You can definitely continue.
Fine. Thank you so much. Bye-bye and good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.